You're going to need a couch cushion or a blanket, a small ball for tonight, a belt, and two matching blocks. And we are going to start with a little butt massage. So these little balls are great for butt massage. If you don't have one of these, you can find one usually at Walmart in the kids section. They're just children's play balls, and they're usually about $2 to $3 each. And I've had these for going on 20 years. I've yet to have one pop, so fingers crossed I don't pop it tonight, but they are worth the money. So you're going to start with that ball and tuck it underneath your right butt cheek and get as ladylike as possible on it and massage just the right butt cheek. And you want to clear some area around you because you will be traveling off that yoga mat. If you just have one yoga mat, clear the space around you because you'll be taking up a lot of space. Get on that ball and start a butt rub on just that right cheek. And do acknowledge that that butt cheek goes all the way up to the top of your thigh bone. You can take some of the pressure off your hands. Goes all the way over to that side hip pocket and all the way up to that back waistband. So you can shift around, cover all that area, and take the load off your wrists every so often by shifting positions. Focus on just the right butt cheek. And rub all over it. If when you find a sore spot and you want more intensity, you can take the corresponding leg. So this is my right and this is my right leg, and do the little thigh master move. I wore my stripy pants so you can see my legs moving tonight. You can do a little thigh master move, or you can cross that ankle over to get even more intensity. And keep on moving, keep on breathing. This is why you want to move the loose clothing out of the way, because you might run over it. You don't want to get tangled up in your clothes. So loose clothing up out of the way. Settling into, breathing into any sore spots you might find. I've got a mosquito torch thing, and the fan is blowing all the smoke right into my face. That's what I'm adjusting out here. All right. So when you've worked out some of the sore spots on that right butt cheek, you're going to come off that ball and just take a moment to settle in and lift and separate, fluff those cushions out, and notice the difference between the two sides. And that was only a minute or so on that one buttock, and already, for me at least, there's a significant difference between the two cheeks. One feels rounder, bulkier, and the other one feels more spread out. So let's make it even. Go ahead, tuck that ball underneath the other cheek, get up on it, and go for a ride. So this small ball myofascial release technique work really complements yoga. So often we're stretching and reaching and striving to touch our toes or get into some of these fancy yoga contorted postures. We've been doing it for years and years and years and not getting anywhere. Sometimes getting a nice deep tissue massage helps to increase your range of motion, your ability to stretch. So again, moving all around, all the way up to that waistband, all the way to that side hip pocket, all the way to the sit bone. Finding a sore spot, bearing down on it, doing a little thigh master move, maybe even crossing that ankle over. Doing your best to keep on breathing. And then finally come off that ball. And once again, lift and separate, divide and conquer. Settle in and notice the difference between the two sides. Hopefully they're a little bit more equal. And we're going to continue moving down the legs. And we're going to start the side hip pocket. We're going to hit that iliotibial band. That tends the fascia out of here on the side hip and down the iliotibial band outside of the thigh. So find your side hip pocket, the seam on your granny panties or your tidy whities. That side hip pocket is where you're going to put that ball. Move your loose clothing up out of the way. Settle in on top of that ball. Shrug your shoulder down away from your ear. Make sure that elbow is underneath the shoulder and you are shrugging up out of that shoulder. Chest is open. Nice deep breaths, doing your best to breathe. And you can tip belly down, belly up. Massaging that side hip pocket area. And then if it works for you, use your top foot as a kickstand. Get up on it, wiggle around a little bit. Depending on the size of the ball you have, it might be a little easier to slide on a bigger ball. And then you're going to reposition the ball lower down the leg. So either you scoot your body up or you scooch the ball down. Go for the top third of the thigh. So if you're familiar with the greater trochanter, that's where you want to be. The top third of the thigh. That's below the short shorts. And wiggle all around on it. You keep the shoulders safe. Shrugs down away from your ear. Belly strong. Keep breathing. And then reposition. And again, depending on the size of the ball you have, how sticky your sticky mat is, how easy it is for you to roll up and down that leg, feel free to slide up and down, wiggle front to back, really work that side line. I am getting smoke blown in my eyes. I don't want the mosquitoes coming, so I'm going to keep this thing going. Hopefully I don't forget about it, run it over. Okay. And then finally, just above the knee, lower third of the thigh. At this point, again, check in with that shoulder. You can do a little kick and curl. A little hacky sack type move. And before we flip over to the other side, I'm going to take the ball out in front of you like it just spilled out of your belly button. So straight out in front of your belly button. Then relax your head and shoulder down to the ground. Maybe cradle your head in the palm of your hand. Take that top knee onto the ball. You're going to work the inner thigh. So you can see the stripes on my pants. There's a stripe on the inner thigh. I'm going up and down that inner thigh stripe. And you might feel how bony that leg is that you just traveled down. Now you're rocking belly down, belly up on that same leg, and it might feel a little bonier than usual. You're also getting a bit of an inner thigh massage here. And you can cycle the leg, you can kick and curl, your little helicopter hacky sack move. Just glancing at myself there, I'm wearing my cheetah print, wild animal pants, and it sounds like there's wild animal growling here with the ball. Purring, maybe. Cheetah purrs. And when you're starting to loosen up that inner thigh, we're going to switch sides. Also, I recommend flipping head to toe so you can still see the screen. And let's go down the other side. So find that side hip pocket, move the loose clothing up out of the way. Finding that side hip pocket, tuck that ball in underneath it. Top foot can be a kickstand. Bottom shoulder shrugs down away from your ear. This helps strengthen the shoulder, maintaining this position here. And you can rock belly down, belly up. And depending on the size of the ball, your tolerance for intensity, you can also kind of chug up and down. Also depends on how sticky your mat is, and how easy it is to move around. And then moving along, top third of the thigh, below the short shorts. Then stabilize that shoulder. Watch out for candles. Swing that leg around, up and down. Slide your body all over it. So doing this kind of therapy, I guess you can call it therapy, type of body work once a week is an excellent complement to all your fitness, be it strength training or stretching. It promotes circulation into those tissues, helps to unstick adhesions caused from injury or trauma. And again, helps improve your range of motion and flexibility. All right, continue moving down to just above the knee. And you can do your kick and curl. Working that lower third just above the knee. And then moving along, take that ball out in front of you like it just fell out of your belly button. And that top knee comes across. And you're going to work some inner thigh. There's a mosquito. It has not been discouraged yet. All right, kicking and curling, helicopter, hacky sack, shifting this way and that way. This also gives you the added bonus of rubbing the outer thigh across the ground, the area you just went down with the ball. It's getting a little bit more intensity here as you rock and roll and shift around. And after a few moments, I'll notice that you're sliding out on the ground a little bit further. Stuff is starting to release. And we're going to move along. But before we move along, you're going to come lie on your tummy. You might orient yourself so that you're looking towards the screen. I'm going sideways just so you can see the body line a little bit better. Pick a leg, any leg, and hike that leg out to the side. And make a lowercase letter H with your body. And take that ball, if you like intensity, and tuck that ball underneath your pubic symphysis. That's where the two halves of your pelvis meet in the front. So it's below the bladder. That bony junction of the two halves of your pelvis in the front of your body. So tuck that ball into the pubic symphysis. Leg hiked out to the side, it doesn't matter which. And you can release your upper body. You can make a pillow out of your hands, turn and rest on your cheek, and do your best to breathe. So that ball is stimulating the pubic symphysis. That's where the two halves of your pelvis meet. Again, it's below the bladder. So you're pushing against bone, not pushing against your bladder. But it's also where muscles of the thigh attach to your hips, helping to release that inner thigh a little bit more by stimulating those muscle attachments at the pubic symphysis. Now, if it works for you, if this is making you tear up and cry, this is your level, stay here. If you want to, this is optional. This can be very nervy, very tender. You have the option, again, you stay down there. I'm just getting up to show you, of moving that ball from the pubic symphysis a little bit to the side, towards the inner thigh of the bent leg. Just moving off that pubic symphysis into that little groove where your bathing suit, your underwear seam is. That's where you want to be. If that works for you. It can be very tender, very nervy. And if it doesn't feel good, if you feel it shoot down your leg, back off, go back to that bony area. Do your best to breathe. And you'll see I'm kind of shifting around a little bit here. So it's really upper inner groin. Depending on the size of the ball you have. You probably don't want to be doing this with a tennis ball. The bigger the ball, the softer, the more diffuse the pressure, the more tolerable it is, the more likely you will be able to breathe. And then reset. Take a moment, remove the ball, stretch both legs straight. You can shimmy from side to side and then get ready to do the other side. So you're going to hike the other leg out to the side, make a lowercase letter H. Take that ball, tuck it underneath that pubic symphysis, and then settle in. And breathe. You're going for at least 3 or 4 breaths here, just to settle in, let the bones settle in, let the muscles release from the bones. Just get used to it. And then decide whether or not you want to move that ball a little wider to the side. And shifting off that pubis bone down to where the thigh attaches to your groin. Optional, definitely optional. Can be very tender, very nervy there. And if it works for you to fidget around, wiggle around on it, go for it. Now that you've gotten all kinds of acquainted and friendly with that ball, you're going to take the ball out. Once again, bring your legs together, tuck your toes under, shimmy your hips from side to side. And then bend your knees, let your heels go wide. And maybe shimmy, work your thighs even more narrow. So you want to zip tie your legs together and let your feet hang. You can roll your ankles around. Kind of looks like a whale tail here. And breathe. By breathing low into your hips, can you figure out where we're going to go next? What feels like it needs attention? We're going to work our way around to the back side of the pelvis. So that triangular shaped bone at the base of your spine pointing down to your tail, that's your sacrum. Right now, with the orientation of your legs and the butt muscles relaxed and stretching and pulling on that sacrum, you might feel a certain intensity, a spread right around that sacrum. So we're going to go and get a deep sacrum massage next. I feel like it should happen. All right, you're going to bring your legs together. Tuck your toes under if you like, or leave them untucked. Find your elbows underneath your chest. Tuck your chin. Pull your belly up into your body. Lift your belly up first. And then elbow walk back to your child's pose. With big toes together, knees apart, hips are back over your heels. Breathe into that low, low back. A tag in the back of your pants. And then you can walk your hands up to your lap and have a quick look. So here's the tag in the back of my pants. And the ball is going to go between the cheeks, below the tag, depending on how high-waisted your pants are. Right there, about the tag in the back of your pants. So lie down. And you might have that pillow reserved for your head and your other toys nearby, just in case. And lie down. Plant your feet. Pelvic thrust. Scoop your belly in. Press into your feet. Lift your hips up and tuck that ball underneath that sacrum, underneath the tag in the back of your pants. The knees are bent, feet are flat. Take your feet wide. You can open your arms out to the side for stability, legs out to the side for stability. And you can tick-tock, windshield wipe your knees side to side. Get a little lower body twist and a massage on that sacrum. Again, don't be shy. If you need a pillow, please put a pillow in place. If your head is comfortable. You can stay here. This is making you cry on the inside. This is your move. If you want a little bit more intensity, heel toe wiggle your feet narrow. Again, arms are out for stability. Work on bringing one knee, maybe both knees in towards your chest, and wiggle your hips around. Then play around with stirring, flapping your legs. Moving this way, that way, any way that feels good. Or you could just be there doing the windshield wipe move. Windshield wipe move is wonderful. And any variation you come up with, as long as it feels wonderful, is perfectly acceptable. And if your knees are in towards your chest, go ahead, put one foot down, put both feet down on the ground, knees bent, feet flat, and then drop your right knee in, let your left leg fall open out to the side. So you feel that right thigh stretching. The right buttock is definitely floating off the ground. You can engage, squeeze that right buttock, let that right hip bone jut out, make that right thigh longer and heavier. Draw that right knee down to the ground. If you want even more quadricep down the front of this right thigh, you might consider working that right toe up towards your armpit, maybe flipping those toes up towards your armpit, stuffing up your pedicure. Belly strong, booty strong, tight buns, tight abs, pressing that right knee down towards the ground. And then release. And rocking over to the other side. Notice I still left my ball in there. The ball just helps me roll over a little bit further. So my legs are staggered. Left knee falling in, right leg turning out. Pulling in your belly nice and strong. Gripping, squeezing that left buttock, letting your left hip bone poke out sharp and pointy. Left thigh gets longer, left knee dives down towards the ground. And if it works for you, you might be able to reach down and drag those left toes up towards your armpit. Intensify that quadricep stretch down the front of that left thigh. And then release, come back to neutral. Knees bent, feet flat, park your feet, lift your hips up, just so you're gonna do a little pelvic thrust tilt, and then peel your hips up off the ground, remove the ball, and set your buns down. And it's gonna feel like your butt is in a hole. Breathe. Keep that ball nearby. In fact, if you want a little head to tail massage, you can tuck that ball in at the base of your skull. So remove the pillow if you have a pillow and tuck that ball in at the base of your skull. So you just exchange pillow for ball. You just massage down at your tailbone. You're massaging now at the base of your skull. You're getting a little head to tail massage. And from here, with knees bent, feet flat, you're going to heel toe wiggle your feet a little bit more narrow, close to one another. Keep your feet down flat on the ground. And then take that right knee in towards your chest. And holding on to that right knee, just swing that right knee side to side across your tummy. Maybe pull it to the left, swing it to the right. Just work that right thigh bone around in that hip joint. Prying open the right side of your sacrum. Stretching that area you just massaged. Then you're going to flex that right foot, cross your right ankle over your left thigh, and swing that right knee away from your chest. So this right knee is turned out to the side like a ballerina. Foot is flexed flat to protect your ankle. Both feet flexed flat. And you can play around with tipping your hips side to side. Tipping your hips side to side gives you a little traction on your neck. You're getting a little 2-for-1. You can get a little neck massage, base of the skull massage, and definitely a hip stretch thing. When that ball is really well wedged in at the base of your skull and you're ready to progress to the next level, you may come to neutral, continue to swing that right knee away from you, but then bring the whole situation in towards your chest, maybe threading that right hand through your legs to hold on behind the back of your left thigh. Keeping both feet flexed flat, doing your best to keep on breathing. You might consider turning your head side to side if you don't lose the ball. Or swing your hips side to side. Just ease that shin, your legs closer in towards your chest. Do your best to keep breathing. And then release. And we'll do that whole thing on the other side. So start with knees bent, feet flat, letting your knees tick-tock side to side. A little neck stretch here, a little traction. And then coming to neutral, heel to wiggle your feet a little bit more narrow. Then you're going to bring that left knee in towards your chest, hold on to it, and swing that knee, that thigh, across your chest. And then out to the side. Just working that left thigh bone around in the hip joint. You think about it, we massage the inner thigh line, and we massaged the outer thigh line, and massage the butts and the sacrum. We should get some pretty good movement here, thigh bone and hip joint. And then flex that left foot, cross it over the right thigh, swing that left knee away from you. Try to let the front hip bones yawn open, those hip joints yawn open. Again, you can tick-tock your hips side to side, your knees side to side. Or let your head turn, as if you're shaking your head no. It's a good idea to have your hair up in a ponytail out of the way. Good idea to have the loose clothes tucked in, pulled tight so you're not choking yourself on a loose shirt or pulling your hair out against the wall. So do whatever works for you there. And then you have the option of bringing your legs in closer to your chest, holding on behind the back of the right thigh. So I recommend holding on behind the thigh so that you don't grab the shin and pull the knee off to the side by pulling the shin off to one way or the other. So holding behind the thigh prevents you from torquing that knee. Don't want to twist it in a weird way. And just wiggle and fidget and ease everything in closer to your chest. And then release. All right, knees bent, feet flat. Now remove that ball from the base of your skull. And if you need to put a pillow in place, go ahead and put a pillow in place. Otherwise, feel free to put your head down on the ground. Knees bent, feet flat. You're going to push into your feet, lift your hips up. Once again, tuck that ball beneath the tag in the back of your pants. So low down on that sacrum, closer to the tailbone. So make sure it's low down between the cheeks, right there at the tailbone. Ideally, it's low enough underneath your hips so that you can get a little pelvic thrust tilt. Your belly scoops in. There's a wrinkle across your belly. Then you're going to put the bottom of your feet together. So you want to work on more of a scooped in belly than an arched back. Try to take the arch out of your back and let your belly scoop in by positioning that ball low down between the cheeks. And now you have your hands. You can push on one thigh and then push on the other. Kind of push, 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 and set yourself to rocking. So you are really massaging right across that tailbone. I recommend letting your hands, your arms do the work here so those hip muscles can stay relaxed. Get a little belly stretch out of this one. As you push your thigh over to the right, think about scooping your belly to the left. As you push your thigh to the left, scoop your belly to the right. You're opening up the front hip joint a little bit more. You see what I'm doing? I'm actually sweeping my hand across my belly, pulling that belly skin as I push the thigh away. And you can play around with settling into neutral and then using your fingers, your fingertips, to scoop, to rake, to drag from pubic bone up towards waistband, from pubic bone to waistband along the inside of your hip bones. You can start to feel the edges, the inside edges of those hip bones. Maybe you can dig your fingers in a little deeper on the inside edges of those hip bones. You might feel some twanging, like beef jerky type fibrous tissue in there. Just kind of stroke it, massage it, drag your fingers through it. Depending on how sensitive your fingers are and how tender your hip bones are, your pelvis is, you might consider using your thumbs. So I actually take my hand across, use two thumbs on one side, and try hooking your thumbs underneath the hip bone or your fingertips underneath the hip bone. Really carve out the inside edge of that hip bone. Trying to maybe sink your fingers underneath that hip bone. That's your psoas muscle. PSOAS. It attaches inside of the pelvis. And in that same region, you also have the iliacus attaching to this hip bone as well. So here, as you stroke on the inside of that hip bone, you're stroking the iliacus, which interacts with that psoas and attaches to your lower back. Get acquainted with it. Don't give yourself a bruise. Make sure you switch and do the other side. If you've ever been in a car accident and you had that trauma of the seatbelt, your belly shoving against that seatbelt cinching it against your waist, there might be some adhesion, some soreness, some stiffness in here that you weren't even aware of. If you have gastrointestinal issues, constipation, what have you, there might be some tenderness in here as well. The tenderness from constipation is usually on the left side, the lower left quadrant. Some of you had C-sections, hysterectomies, all kinds of abdominal trauma one way or the other. So you might have some really tender spots in there. But again, don't get carried away. Just do a couple passes on each side and then help your legs together They were there for a long time. That was my way of stalling, killing time, letting your legs fall open into that butterfly position a little longer than usual. Distracted you from that. Then remove the ball from beneath your butt once again. All sorts of lower back touching the ground. That doesn't usually. All right, you're going to roll over to the side, pick a side, any side, press into your hands, come on up. We're going to sit on that ball. And I'm going to show you my backside. So when you sit on this ball, you want to tuck the ball between the cheeks, the tip of that tailbone. So it's between the cheeks, touching the tip of your tailbone. Some of that ball is visible from behind. I'm going to turn around and put my best face forward and sit on the ball. Now, you also want to have your belt and your blocks and your cushion and fun stuff nearby, because you're going to come into that butterfly position again. You were just there for a while, but we're going to come into it again. Take those blocks, and you can tuck the blocks underneath the knees to keep them tipping from side to side. And again, you can't see the ball from the front here. You can see it from the back. You can touch it from behind. That ball is shifted back between the tailbone and the sit bones. You don't want it shifting forward. Shoulders are back, chest is lifted. Hold on to your shins, 2 fingers around your big toes, if that works for you, or a belt around your feet, whatever gives you good leverage. Knees propped up to a comfortable height. Shoulders back and down, chest lifted, and bring your chest forward. Try to breathe into your heart. You're able to reach down, take a hold of your feet. You can give yourself a foot massage as you advance your chest forward a little bit more. You need your feet. And try to breathe into that lower back, that low back. Breathe into your inner thighs. So we've made contact with pretty much the entire pelvis and sacrum. And then slowly come on up. All right, take your right leg straight out in front, left knee is still bent. Drag that left foot in a little bit higher, and you can catch that left knee with a block. Now, I still have the ball between the tailbone and sit bone, that Bermuda Triangle area. We're going to take the ball, I'm going to lean over here, take the ball and reposition it to the top third of the thigh, the seam of the granny panties, where your bathing suit's supposed to stay but never does. Okay? So it's right there, very top of the thigh. Center, back, middle thigh, top of the thigh. Shoulders back, chest lifted, your heart up big and tall, and then begin to lean forward out over the straight leg. Now, if you have it in your head that you want to touch your toes, use the ball, the belt. You can lasso your foot. Reach down and grab a hold of that belt. Maybe bring your chest farther forward. So, coming forward with a flatter back, leading the way with your heart. You just loop the belt around the back of your hands a couple times so you can sit up tall and hold on without death grip, and breathe. So if you drop your shoulders, advance your heart, you can really bear down on that ball. And that's what you want to do more than anything. Bear down on that ball at the very top of your thigh. Sit bone. Breathe. So at the top of your thigh, the sit bone is where that hamstring muscle attaches. That's the muscle that you might feel stretching at the back of your thigh. And then release, sit up tall. Remove the ball and come on down. Oh, and there's all kinds of backside touching the floor that doesn't really usually touch down. I'd stretch the other leg out straight just to compare the two sides. Yeah, it definitely feels like I gotta fix it. So let's take that right knee, hike it out, catch it with a block. I'm gonna tuck the ball in at the very top of your left thigh. right at the sit bone. And pull some of the flesh out of the way so that ball is making good contact with the sit bone. Shoulders back, chest lifted. And you're going to lean forward, leading the way with your heart. Flat back, if at all possible. And then if you want to catch hold of the foot, you can use your belt. Loop it around the back of your hands a couple times to hold on without a death grip, without aggravating your hands, your carpal tunnel. Shoulders back, chest lifted. Bear down on that ball. Breathe. So this is Janu Shirshasana. Janu means knee, Shirsa means head, Asana means terrible, torturous position or yoga pose. So Janu Shirshasana is about knee head pose. It's not about putting your head on your knee. It's about putting your head in your knee. Pay attention to that knee. Make sure that the leg is engaged in such a way that the knee does not collapse. You don't want your knee hyperextended. Now, physiologically speaking, if you engage the quadricep, brain is sending signal to quadricep to activate, to fire those muscle fibers and shorten and tighten. Brain sends no signal to the hamstring. Therefore, the hamstring is not being told to contract and tighten. The hamstring is being told nothing, and therefore the hamstring might just relax. And the longer that hamstring gets, the more upright you can sit nice and tall and lean forward. Lead the way with your heart. I'll give you all that explanation just to kind of entertain you while we wait for that change to happen. And it takes 3 or 4 breaths, and I think you've probably had 3 or 4 breaths. So go ahead, remove that ball. And once again, shake both legs out, compare the 2 sides. All right, we're going to lie back down. But before you lie down, I would like you to look at me. So you're going to keep all your toys nearby. And in a moment, you'll be lying down on your back. And in a moment, you're going to tuck that ball in at your waistband. I'll just show you my waistband. Tuck the ball in at the waistband. So you already massaged the butt. So we're going to go above the butt to that waistband. And you're going to move the ball off center. So if the spine was running down the middle of my back, I'm going to position that ball to the side of that spine. So here's my spine, and the ball is going to go just outside the spine and above my hip bone. So just outside the spine and above the hip bone. That's where the ball is going to go. Pick a side. I'm going to pick my right side, and let's do it. You might want to start towards the top edge of your mat because you'll be traveling towards the toes. So I've got the ball. I'm going to tuck the ball. Actually, I'm going to start by my feet down by the end because I'm going to travel up. Tuck that ball in at the waistband on the right side, wide of my spine. I'm going to come onto my elbows. Knees bent, feet flat. Scoot my belly in, tuck my tail under, a little pelvic thrust, and bear down on that ball. The more you can scoop your belly in, tuck your tail in, the more you can push against that ball, the more likely you are to release that quadratus lumborum, that lower back. And breathe. Make sure your shoulders are shrugged down away from your ears. Belly pulled in. Good technique in this position is being able to reach out and tap your knee. Being able to reach out and tap your knee means your chest is high enough, that you're not in a back bend. If you're to let your chest sag and you weren't able to reach out and touch your knee, you were probably moving into a back bend and you're reducing the effectiveness, the intensity of this stretch. Still on the same side. So we haven't switched sides. We're staying on the same side. You're going to scooch your hips towards your heels. Maybe crawl your elbows towards your heels too. Have that ball travel up. Now you're getting middle back. And you might consider rocking the knees side to side to massage that middle back. Again, you're not massaging your spine, you're massaging to the right of the spine. And then you can kind of wiggle, drag, move along. Getting to the bottom ribs. Be careful here. Don't move around too much at the bottom ribs. Got some floating ribs there. You don't want to put too much pressure on them. And then move along, getting up in between the shoulder blade and spine. Getting up in between the shoulder blade and spine is where the good stuff is. Hopefully you have your blocks nearby, because when you do indeed get in between the shoulder blade and spine, you get that ball up in between the shoulder blade and spine, you can support your head on blocks or hold on to your head with your hands. And get that ball in between the shoulder blade and spine on that right side. And then you could do your breaststroke, snow angel, butterfly, shrug, unshrug, wax on, wax off. And then for me, when I get that ball up high enough, sometimes it works just for me to move it with my hand. We move that ball up a little bit higher. And then maybe the very top of the shoulder. Once I get here towards the top of the shoulder, I like to turn the block down or move the block altogether. So the weight of my head can start to rest on that ball. And then finally, you're going to wedge the ball in at the base of your skull on the right side. So we've been here before. Now we're just doing the right side. I have to hold on to it with my hand here so it doesn't get away. As I turn my head, shaking my head no, holding onto that ball, really prying open the right side base of the skull. Play around with yawning. Taking a big yawn or two. Wiggling jaw, stretching your face. Really massaging at the base of the skull on the right side. And then eventually pulling that ball out, putting your head down, get ready to do the other side. So you might want to curl back to where you started from. And do the same thing. Working up. For me, it's going to be my left side. So starting above the waistband, the hip bone, and left of the spine. Knees bent, feet flat. Belly scooped in. Little pelvic thrust going on, bearing down on it. Breathing into it, being able to reach out and touch the knees, which ensures that I've got my abs engaged. I am not back bending. Really bearing down on that quadratus lumborum. It's like the trapezius of the lower torso. This big band, strapping muscle. All right. And then moving the ball up. Either scoot your body or use your hand. Move that ball up a little bit higher. And I'm always going to encourage you to fidget and wiggle around a little bit in pretty much every single pose you ever do. And then moving that ball up, lower back rib area. And keep moving that ball up. Keep breathing. And all the way up in between the shoulder blade and spine. And again, when you get up in between the shoulder blade and spine, you might consider putting a block under your head. Don't forget to breathe. I know this can be very intense, but imagine it was a loved one giving you a massage. Try to breathe into it. Don't tense up. Then move that ball up a little bit higher. Don't forget to wax on and wax off. Paint the fence. Snow angel. And then continue moving up towards the base of the skull, very top of the shoulder. Working our way up. Got it. All right. And then eventually the ball wedges in the base of the skull. For me, it's on the left side. That ball in there. Adjust the clothes. Make sure you're not getting choked. Make sure you're not pulling your hair. And then you can consider tick-tocking your knees side to side. And you might need to hold on to that ball. You can consider turning your head side to side too. Tick-tock the knees a couple times and then turn your head. Shaking your head now, yawning. Here on the right and left side are acupressure points, shiatsu type points for insomnia. So if you are yawning, that's a good thing right now. You'll probably sleep really well tonight. Also a area for tension, headache, eye strain, all that fun stuff. And then eventually you can remove the ball, set your head down, and breathe. Big breath. Now feel free to revisit anywhere that needs a little bit more attention. Maybe you want the ball between your cheeks, underneath that sacrum again. Maybe you want the ball at the base of your skull. Maybe you want the ball right the center of your back so that your heart really expands upward. Pick your position. The ball can go between the cheeks. If you take the ball between the cheeks, you might consider taking your feet wide, turning your toes in, letting your knees lean together. Hang out here with knees bent, feet flat. You can tie your thighs together. If you go for the butterfly thing, make sure the blocks support your knees and that ball is really low down the tail. Or that ball can be up between the shoulder blades, getting your heart to open. And if you have that ball up between your shoulder blades, you might need a block to support your head so that you can breathe comfortably. So work that ball in between the shoulder blades so that your heart really expands outward. Boobs should be pointing straight up. Shoulders down away from your ears. The shoulder blade's going to wrap around that ball. Your neck is long. Or you can take that ball and wedge it in at the base of your skull. If you're doing the ball at the base of your skull, you could probably take your legs out straight. But in the other two positions, especially with a ball underneath your hips, knees bent, feet flat. The ball's underneath your shoulder blades. Again, probably knees bent, feet flat. Unless your body is happy stretching your legs out. This is kind of that intermediate one. This is where some people can go there, some people can't. Again, if you have the ball at the base of your skull, you can take your legs straight if that works for you. Probably will. So there's kind of a progression. Depending on where the ball is, it varies what you do with the legs. Shoulders down away from your ears. Nice deep breaths. Breathing. think it's kind of silly to say when you've had enough of that. I could probably fall asleep like this. When you have to get up and finally move, do something else. Pick a side, any side, roll over. You're going to be coming off that ball, roll it over. And find a comfortable way to sit. Shoulders back and down. Heart open. Center yourself. Stack head over heart, over hips, over tail. And then inhale, stretch your arms all the way up. And bring your hands together, bring them down midline. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.